and what I would like you to start looking at, which perhaps you've done it so far, but maybe not. And let's take it from there. And I think I'm gonna try to, let's say, have a tutorial per week. I think Sunday, like around that time, is a good time for everybody. Well, for me at least. I don't know about you, but it leaves a little bit of Sunday left, and it's not too early. But up to you. We can discuss what is the best time. So we kind of have a fixed meeting, and you always prepare for that. And there's no, I mean, sometimes we may reschedule and stuff, but kind of try to keep it in this domain. Of course, if you need something else in between, you can text me. As I say, there's nothing else to do all day long. Not Sunday only, generally the week. But, you know, before you ask something, try to resolve it, because that's where actually thinking is generated. It's not about, I don't know how to turn on my computer, let's ask. No. Try to find where's the button. You know what I mean? It's a bit of try first. Okay, so who wants to start? Team one, let's say.
Yeah, we're team one.
Okay, cool.
Shomon,
Hey, let me share my screen.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. In this kind of online tutorials, the thing I miss, and unfortunately there is no solution yet, I think this is something somebody needs to do, and he will make a lot of money. It's actually everybody, it's the loss of feedback, you know, because everybody's muted. You kind of, when you talk alone. It's a bit weird. So if somebody develops software or something that everybody can have the microphone on without making noise, that would be the best. Because actually there will be some this real-time feedback that you need when you talk to a screen, effectively.
Yeah, and we've become too polite, right?
A bit, yeah. You need to interrupt me, slap me or something. That would be usually in the studio.
Good idea.
Yeah, again, Spiropoulos wrong. Guys, he's gonna kill you every time. Okay.
Shall we start?
Yeah, go for it.
Actually, this PowerPoint is what we showed to most of us yesterday, and
okay, so you met with him. Great.
Yeah, I have already met with him, and we are Earth team. So
Sorry,
yesterday.
One second. I'm gonna be rude. When are you meeting Theo? Is it anything scheduled? Not yet.
Most likely on Wednesday.
Okay, fine. And is there a presentation organized yet, or is it the following week? I think it will be the following week. Okay, never mind.
What kind of presentation?
You know, the regular presentations every 2 or 3 weeks. You know, every 2 or 3 weeks there's a progress presentation, and then somewhere in the middle of the term there's an interim, and then another mid one, and then the final of the term, and then it's sometimes quite flexible. So depending on your progress, we decide then. But usually every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, there is a presentation of your progress, and then you present to the whole studio, and everybody gets a kind of a feedback from all the jury, from all the tutors. Anyhow, there's nothing scheduled yet, so as I understand. Okay, we can start.
Okay, and we I think explore the Earth in 7 chapters.
I like the fact you have it opposite.
Yeah, and the first is a background. So just a brief introduction, because there are 100 PowerPoint, too much. Yeah.
It's fine. You can flick through, but just let's get a topic around.
Yeah, and the second part is urban ecology within and out of the Earth. We focus on the environmental problem and the space junk problem. And the third part is Earth-Christ life. So we think we explore what could we learn from life. So we mentioned a theory about the emergence and the agent-based model and some simulation, like cellular automata game of life and colony of algorithm. And the fourth part is earth and material. So we take a look at the transformation of material forms based on energy. And we explore the bacteria in soil, and this is the catalog. And the solution. Then
what do you mean the solution?
Serum could
It's
the introduction.
yes, and it's some way that the bacteria could do something like create fields or dealing with the pollution or create greener products and feed the world.
Okay.
Okay, and next.
It's very trendy, that one with the bacteria and moss and all that stuff. Very trendy topic.
Yeah, we do research on natural phenomena such as gravitation and magnetic field. Yeah, and this is a catalog.
Okay, but in which sense are you exploring magnetic fields?
So we just learn from some case that how human use magnetic field in medicine or create small architecture, and I think and we learn from it. It's all about electrical and magnetic introduction.
But that, what has to
we
do
can
with
use
Earth and life? I mean, it is a way humans apply magnetism, but it's not necessarily related to life.
Yeah, actually
yes.
it's not related, but we could show it in our today's logic, but later.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we explore the gravitation and the landfall, such as volcano, karst, wind erosion, and something else. And then we do research on Earth and the universe and their relationship. Some case study about how to understand the relationship between Earth and outer space, and some scenario to reference. Yeah, this is maybe a spacecraft, and then maybe I think it's your project.
Yeah, it reminds me of something.
Yeah. And this is just a philosophical way to understand Earth and the sphere. Yeah. So this is our yesterday's assumption of our project. We start from the unit to swarm. When we talk about unit, we think we could use material such as bacteria and force field, but most of us said that we haven't connected each other. So in today's, I think Jadong could introduce this art.
Yeah, so today we combined the previous research and made the logical framework. So the Earth contain the surface of the Earth and the universe. Firstly, we want to introduce the Earth's surface. The surface can be used as material, environment, and technology. So from the material, like we found the soil, and we introduced the foreign force, like the ant, tarantula, and plant and bacteria, to shape the soil and influence the soil to get the biomass and fuel and the food production. This is now just a method we develop in simulation. And the next is about the environment. Environment contains the landform and an ecosystem. The landform contains mountain, parameters, desert, volcano, and coastal landform. So and the technology we research, like photosynthesis and bioelectricity and degradation. But in the universe, we not research more things, and I think we need more time to explore more. Yeah. So this is just this is our work we did.
I would suggest. I think it's it's a good start. I think there's a lot of thinking behind the research. Obviously, in a lot of different topics, which is normal at the time we are. But I think you need to start organizing it in a way that actually helps you develop more thinking. So what I would do, I think this diagram is quite good, but I would say try to split it between analog and digital. So somehow, actually, it's not necessarily an analog and digital separation, but it's more about what is natural and what is, let's say, technological / human. So when you say, for instance, let's say, if you go more on the left of your screen, let's say the clay printing is not really on the landform, right? So it is kind of a technique you can generate or kind of utilize resources of the land to produce something man-made. So it's kind of, there's a distinction between what is a natural process and what is a man-made process, which they are effectively quite close to each other. But it's not always, there's not always a correlation in your diagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the distinction between the two, it could actually help you develop strategies and start mixing techniques and have a more combination of either natural phenomena or man-made techniques. Also, the ecologic studio is something Theo hates. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, but I want to know whether we from material, environment, and technology, or we do the three at the three. Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
How should I put it?
I think our problem right now is how to combine these things together to create a prototype or something.
Well, you don't need to rush it. You don't need to create a prototype yet. What you need to do is well, start combining, start getting a thinking around what could be something. Don't rush it. Try to, though, how can I say, organize your thinking towards a direction. It's very vague at the moment. It's not easy to explain what exactly it is and which is the process of everybody's attacking this problem. But effectively, you just need to categorize and organize in a way that it starts generating ideas. At the moment, it's just putting it down there, and there are individual elements. So somehow you need to start connecting the dots. And of course, it's a hard task, but once you do it, everything will start making more sense. And also, let's say the forces. You have the forces tab here that I see with the ant and tarantula. I think it's not really forces, that one, right? And I think you can expand much more your list. It's not only those ones.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think you need to work on that kind of diagram much more. Try to organize it a bit more in a better way.
You mean the force actually is human-made?
Well,
right?
I think what you say force there, it's actually more agency, effectively, because either is tarantulas or is a human doing the same thing, or if it's I don't know, a robot doing the same thing. Effectively, it's kind of agency, right? It's kind of utilizing the land, doing something on it, and producing something.
Yeah.
The magnetic field on the other side is more force, and I think it's going together with gravitational forces, with any other forces applied on the Earth's surface. Pressure, perhaps, any other forces. To be honest, I'm no physicist, so but it's another category that probably is not where you have it.
Our force means like the parameters in the simulation to influence the material and to get something we want.
But it's more processes, right? I mean, what you say agency there is it's kind of processes. So you are applying something. So you need to, these words and what it is exactly is what it will start clearing a bit your story about what it is. So you have your material, which is the earth, but then you have processes that they affect your material, that they generate something out of it, right? You have the forces that actually influence the material, but not necessarily generate something, but they could generate something. Or sometimes they are the beginning of everything, right? Gravity is one of the most important forces on Earth. If we didn't have gravity, we wouldn't exist at all. Pressure is one of those as well. Atmosphere is as well. Well, atmosphere is not a force, effectively, but as an environment. So, but then you could think how applying different forces on the same materiality, which is your Earth, with a different process, it can result to something else. For instance, well, you have the example of outer space. In outer space, we have totally different force application than on Earth, and then we get totally different existence of the same materiality there and totally different processes. So how the forces could be translated in different environment is a question as well.
Okay.
If you go to outer space, then you go to the air domain. So I think outer space is not in what you should be looking at. Like you should be looking at how forces, they have different implications on your materiality.
Yes, so I want to ask a question. How should we understand the material? Is it maybe element or let's say host environment? Because we know soil is environment to sustain life, to maybe create bacteria or something. So we do not know how to catalog the.
Well, soil, yes, it can be burned. It could be biomass, right? It could be fuel.
Yeah.
It could be, well, it could be somewhere the bacteria actually grow, but it could be other things, right? It has different properties. So sand is soil, which you can produce glass out of it, or like the material properties of what soil is, of what earth is. It has it has different, let's say, trajectories of what could be used for. So I think you should be looking to expand your list. It's not only those ones. It's not about burning it, producing energy out of it, or just growing on top of it. I think there are properties that you could expand upon. I think property is something you don't really have here, which is important. Let's say melting points, when something becomes gas, when something becomes solid, which is also important material properties, right? Like this state changing of the materiality is actually something quite important. When something turns from something to something else, and what does it require to do that? Effectively, all those that have a life cycle, like moss and bacteria and all that, they have a life cycle. From nothing, they grow to something else, and they change. The same happens, let's say, with let's say biofuel. It is, I don't know, it could be sugarcane, and then through chemical processes, it becomes fuel. So this state changing is actually quite important.
You mean how to do the energy transformation, or how to change one material to another?
Well, it's all part of the same question that you are looking at. There's no, at the moment, there's no right and wrong, right? And there's no a way to do it. But it's more about exploring your options and try to find what has the biggest potential to start working on. But I would say all of them, they do have potentials to some degree. So what you will be doing at the end is something that you choose to decide what it is, but it's not. There's no right and wrong. I cannot tell you whether looking at I don't know, bacteria or looking at termites is better or not. It's about how do you generate a strategy through these processes to generate architecture. So it's a longer, it's a question that's going to be answered quite down the line. But I think you have done a good start. I think you need to expand more though, and beyond just expanding your list is understanding more about what is each of those branches, and include the elements we discussed about the material properties and state changing and yeah, and physics.
Okay.
Yes, actually, we have do a lot of cases study in PowerPoint about the transformation of material and energy. But just like the chemical equation lead to the transformation of material in land form. So may I ask, what in the next step should we consider more? Of course, we should find more technology or natural phenomenon we could utilize, but should we consider about the scenario, I mean the connection between the scenario and the technology of natural phenomena?
Well, I think you should start connecting technology with natural phenomena in a way, but again, you shouldn't. It's not about finding a specific scenario or something. You're still in the general abstract research avenue, but soon you will need to start shortlisting some of the stuff you are looking at now and getting more into it and try to simulate it and understand how you can utilize them to generate space, for instance.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe that's all of our work.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. I think it's a good start. But from your 100 slides you have on the left, I think you need to start filtering a bit and see what is actually important, what's not important, and organize it. Because I think there's a lot of ideas there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And think also about life cycles and the circular economy of materiality. How things are recycled, how materiality is recycled, how it changes states, and then a kind of there's a circular economy effectively in nature. Yeah, and then energy preservation, it's also important, how the energy remains the same and converts from one to the other. What else?
Okay.
You have processes, you have forces. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Cool. I know. It sounds that it's a bit vague, but it's normal. Don't worry about vagueness.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next one, Daphne.
Hello.
You,
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Yuki, you are very silent today.
Who?
Yeah, okay, Yuji. Yeah, no, I know you are there. I can see you. Usually you talk a lot. Today you're very silent.
Really?
Okay.
Okay, we are water team.
Water.
We are our team is Yuji, Tyler, Ola, and me. During this week, we explored water in 3 main different research directions. And in order to create the whole water catalog, as Theo asked us to do. And so our research was focused on these 3 different directions, and we thought that it would be better to go quickly through all this. And just to give you a glimpse of these 3 directions.
Yeah.
So yeah, firstly, like more conceptual think of what water is in culture and etc. So firstly, we go to explain to explore what water is as a material. So we have different water as a chemical composition, which I skipped somehow. Then special properties that water has, which are makes it to be so different from other fluids. I don't think that we have to explain more of these. They're quite self-explanatory. But these give these special effects that water has, like ice floats, stretch membrane, capillary action that helps photosynthesis in the plants, and strong surface bonds, which creates drop formation. Then we have phase changes. Tyler, you want to?
Yeah, for the material part with different phases, there has some, like, we're looking into the natural behavior of the water in different phases, such as solid or liquid or vapor phase, and also some interesting fact about like how its water become or ice become blue. And next slide. And all the one research about like within the different phases, what's the the reason behind how it behaves like naturally. Okay, next slide. For the volume expansion, there also have some interesting fact that because we have 9% expansion when water become ice, so there has structure change when the temperature drop. So the chemical structure actually kind expand a little bit because of the nature of the structure. And next, please. And about the bending also, because water is a polar molecule, and so because of that positive and negative electrode charge, so there are always a bending happening, like the picture shows. And next. And about the thickness, also quite interesting, and find some research about that, like the hexagon bonding and how it's bonds together can create the thickness, such as the net can actually hold the water drop. And okay, yeah, about the next maybe, yeah. And the shapes. Oh, okay, go next. Okay, this actually Bentley is the first photographer who took the picture of the shape of snow. And for the snow, there has a lot of natural shape, and kind of interested how it's actually expand from the center part. And okay, next. And with
what makes it different?
I think it's about the temperature, and also because the supercooling process with different temperature, and also the environment such as wind and like when the rain drop through the air with different conditions actually creates different shapes.
It's actually quite interesting to understand what is actually making it. Like, what are the parameters?
Okay, yeah.
Because it's radically different geometries, right? And it can have to do with temperature, and it's as simple as that. But
okay, yeah, I will take look at that also. About the ice sublimation also, like it's just the thermal energy change, and it's naturally the snow can actually move. It's kind of like a natural aggregation process in this term. So like the video shows. Okay, next. And about the formation, also some interesting fact, like the snow flakes is not going to downwards, but it can also go upwards because of the like the diagram here. One reason is because of the chemical structure is a hexagonal, and also about because if you put a cube of water, so the water could actually become ice from the surface, and then to the center part it's gonna create a pressure in it, and from the center part the water will go up because the water will change to ice from surface to inner part. So it's kind of like a lava effect. Okay, next. So this video is like the experiment of the flake spikes. Sorry.
It's quite interesting stuff, those ones, huh?
Okay, next. Okay, next slide. Okay.
But ridiculously complicated.
And okay, about the transparency, also some interesting fact about ice cube. So ice can create ice cube from 0 to -3, and with a supercooling process. But the bubble inside it actually creates like less transparency, or the dust or other like material if mixed within it. But if the more clear ice cube presented more pure water. Okay, next. And about the video like shows about buoyancy and also fluidity. NASA took those experiments about the waters in space. So without gravity, because fluidity and buoyancy is kind of related to gravity. So without gravity, the water could be like because of the stickiness and also the pressure of the air, so it's gonna hold together as the one drop. It's quite interesting, the video actually. So yeah, also maybe we can thinking about like how we can use this kind of energy and form changing. Okay, next. Next. Okay.
Then we started just. We thought that it would be interesting to explore the different patterns that water forms, either in the sediments and sand, or in the water with water turbulence, or different pressure, currents, etc. And then, sorry, I missed a slide here. We will talk about that later again, but we have some ideas about how to use all these different water properties in order to harvest energy from them. So we will show later the diagram that synopsizes this. So then we started looking at water as technology and water management infrastructure in ancient times and in more contemporary infrastructure. And then we had some case studies about water, some robotics and some cutting-edge technology that is related to water. So firstly, I just quickly go through this. It's nilometers, which measure and evaluate water, canals, which transfer and distribute water in the Persian, aqueducts and step wells, very important structures, flood control system in China, which is from 256 before Christ, and it still exists now. And then we have some more recent examples. This is the Warka water, which captures water in inside the net, and it distributes the water in the village. Then dams, which are mega structures, and we went through some.
Where is it? The tower you showed earlier, where does it capture the water from? Is it from the atmosphere?
Yeah, it's from the atmosphere. This orange net is used as it captures the water drops from the atmosphere.
Not only when it rains, right? It's just from the humidity.
No, it's just from the atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think the water drops inside here, and it is they store it into some.
But how does it work? Like, what is the?
I think it's related to the thickness of the chemical structure, because the moisture can form a raindrop. So it's kind of same logic like with a net. So they implemented with a net about this.
You basically capture like a net gets a piece. You capture the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
is it very efficient? Well, meaning how much water does this tower get per day? Like a little bucket?
We have to search about that. Yeah. Yeah, I can't press that.
Well, but you don't need to answer now, but you know.
Yeah, we will answer that. But they use it as a basic water infrastructure, and it seems that this team, the Warka Water, it has created several prototypes for this.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a nice structure also. It can. So yeah, dams, these mega structures, everyone knows about that. And we went through the Delta works that have some many different infrastructure, from storm barriers, dams, and dikes, and this is the most recent example. And I think Netherlands seems to have the most contemporary research regarding hydrodynamics, and this comes from this huge research that they did in order to protect them from the flooding.
Yeah, actually, in order to exist, it's a matter of existence.
Yeah. So we thought that this could be interesting to see as an example. And then we have some more new technologies. We have this example from MIT Self-Assembly Lab, despite the fact that we understood that Theo doesn't like them much.
There's always stuff like that.
Yeah, but okay, we thought that it could be interesting because they use the deposition, this process, in order to grow islands here. So we use wave energy and ocean currents to grow something. Then this is an example of artificial muscles at MIT. They use water vapor here. This is interesting because it can lift 10 times the weight of the object.
The question, though, is how do you control that thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Meaning, yes, as a phenomenon, we all understand it. It kind of curls and stuff, but
yeah,
how do you control?
Here, this might be more intelligent because they program the material to respond to the water pressure with a different structural geometry with an origami technique. And the Wyss Institute here managed to create these soft robotic arms which drift, lift, and twist 1,000 times the weight of the object. So I don't know.
I guess 1,000 times of their own weight.
Of their own weight, yeah.
Okay.
Then how to use microorganisms to get bioluminescence. And then there is this algae example of how to harvest energy from algae. And let's skip them. And then water as environment.
We researched on the different water bodies on Earth, and like we have, obviously Earth is composed more of water than land, and we researched the different settlements, human settlements on water. Most settlements are on lakes and sea, and then you can skip this one. We looked at how these people used water, not imposed onto water, but actually used what water gave them as conditions to live there. You can skip through these slides so that I can. We looked into how they used water as transportation, how they used water to drive their designing their homes. Like, for example, this lake has a seasonal flooding twice a year. There is a dry season and then there is a wet season. During the dry season, the level of water is low, and then during the high season, the level of water is high. So because of that, they had to create or design homes on stilts so that they accommodate with the different environmental situation throughout the year. And then there are several examples of different typologies on water, mostly on stilts and boats. Also, we looked at how they also created artificial islands to do agriculture, to instead of going on land. And also, we looked into different challenges, pollution challenges that they faced. For example, here, the challenge, if you go back, the challenge is the water hyacinth that went on the water. So what they found out that it could actually help in cleaning up the oil spills, in the ocean. So basically what we took from this whole case studies is that how they actually use the resources that water gave them into their advantage instead of imposing on the nature of water itself.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess this is to summarize everything about these case studies. And this one, the islands of using the reeds to create the islands instead of having artificial materials to use to create those islands,
Mm-hmm. I think, well, my point of view on water is effectively, let's say, due to climatic change and then the way we develop as humans, we ended up having more sea, less land somehow. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
And effectively, that could be okay if we can actually use seawater, which we can't. So everything is down to salt, right? Because the salt water, you actually can't do much about it. So I think there is a story there that you haven't touched too much. Well, maybe it is actually here. That has to do with how actually seawater can become something else. How can you utilize either to build, either to separate it from salts and water. You can change the world if we had a strategy where we can actually get seawater and make fresh water, except from desalination, which is extremely energy consuming process. That would actually change the world because we could have much more supplies of fresh water, which means, I don't know, more vegetation, more production of sort of vegetables and anything that is based on water, and then reduce also the sea level effectively in a very long run. So, or maybe we can use salt for building. I don't know what it is, but I think this is kind of the big question: is how can you change the balance between sea water and fresh water? How can you remove some of the seawater to do more land? It's actually quite.
I think there's one way to do that is like the vibration process, so it can purify the seawater to just water purely. But like how to achieve that is.
Well, there is many ways you can do it. You can actually separate. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible. The question is, how do you do it environmentally? With a sustainable way. So if it's about, I don't know, you can desalinate water by boiling it, right? Boil the water, you collect the vapors, you make fresh water, you keep the salt. But you require so much energy to do that. It's not actually sustainable. So it's actually an important question, because that's where actually our problem is. Our land is shrinking, and we get full of water we can't utilize. Even the majority of fresh water from rain and stuff goes down to the sea. So collecting the water is important. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's quite cool what you have. Again, still is in the research part of things, but I think there's a lot you can actually grab on. And I think this kind of principle of using water as your main, let's call it building element, or it's actually quite powerful.
Yeah. So we said that also, as you said, that there are some threats that come from water right now, and from the climate change that's happening right now. And we have water scarcity, as you said, like the lack of water, fresh water, and which can end also to water conflicts. It's an ongoing thing that's happening right now between Ethiopia and Egypt, with this huge dam, and sea level rise that lands tends to disappear, and you have this erosion issue with disappearing cliffs. And we have these different approaches towards erosion and flooding, things which most often we just create concrete walls or breakwaters.
Yeah.
And we were thinking how we could use this energy instead of preventing the flooding, instead of fighting this force. How we could turn this to our constructive force. So we could extract energy from erosion, from deposition, probably from these different current waves, which have create different patterns, and I don't know, vaporization, pressure, turbulence, and microorganisms. These were the processes that, after all this, we defined that like that. And the variables come from topography, temperature, salinity, acidity, and pH. But it might be too general, all this. But
no, it's fine.
How we track that. And we had some discussions like after today, and how to use this data and how to create an interactive system also. So we could discuss also about that part, which is more about the computational framework and that designer thing, how we introduce the interactive part, how people could influence water, let's say, with, I don't know, Yuji, you want to?
Wait, because now I got a little bit confused. What that has to do? What humans have to do with water, and why do they need to have something to do with water?
Like the emotional express, like water can visualize how humans feel. Like
okay, but that's
too much.
It's a little bit too much for now. Yeah, but effectively we are all water. We know these stories, and then all I would say is that you need to pick your weapons here. If you go too much, then it's gonna go too wide as a research. You would get lost.
Yeah, I think we get this very general framework of research, and then we tried. This was quite one direction that we were thinking how water, for example, is related to therapy, probably. So how could water could be used in therapy, interacting with some maybe I don't know, emotional part.
I think what I would do.
Very initial steps of trying to think about how to use these interactive techniques.
Yeah, what I would start doing is I think that the first part was quite good about actually how you materialize. Well, it is a material, but how do you materialize in architecture water, and what can you get out of it, and then try to see how, because part of what I wanted to work with you is this touch designer thing. Which I'm going to talk to you about in a sec. But how do you actually data mine or mine data from the water itself? Like, what is actually that we can read from it and visualize and analyze, and let's say, and what is the techniques actually? So can you actually let's say, using some kind of computer vision or some kind of tracing, identify water movement or water turbulence or water flows? Can you start reading those things on a pattern, and then really use the water as the interface to get the data we need to start working on it and analyze and develop and calculate what we're using the water for, instead of going to the user part of it. So what I understand is you want to kind of connect interaction to water, and that's why you went to the trajectory of the BCI, because, well, effectively it's water-based, but I don't think necessarily you need to go to that domain yet, at least. I think trying to capture the properties and the behavior of water could be actually much more interesting than capturing some human emotion stuff that I think that you need to pick what you want to respond to in your project. But if you are more about utilizing water in architecture and in your built environment, then I think the human, although it's part of it, the influence on the human is less important. That's why I think at this stage, and whether it's used as a treatment, you can put running water noise and relax in your house, and it's a treatment, but it's not the most important one at the moment, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I have no idea is the answer.
Could we get some data from weather data and import them from that designer? I haven't understood that.
Well,
it's possible.
what I want to talk to you about a touch designer is that nobody has used it ever. And I think one person per team should focus on it, because it could be something that, it could be let's say a tool we adopt in the DRL. So it would be good to explore. And from what I understand, is kind of useful to visualize data effectively. Now, the way you collect data is another story. It could be out of physical, you put the running water under the tub, you put a camera in front of it, and you try to trace the shadows and the bubbles, and kind of calculate the speed of them and stuff like that. I don't know, but it could be a way, or it could be passed by a digital model. I would more encourage the first, though, trying to base it on some physical data rather than on digital data, because the digital is already simulated. Like there's the math behind how, let's say, a vortex works is already embedded in Maya, and there's no math. It's quite a calculated environment. So maybe that's a way, but what I would suggest is try to explore how we can do it physically, and whether there is actually a way. Maybe it's not that easy, or that actually, I'm not going to use the word easy. It's not that feasible. I don't know, but it's something we need to explore. And we need to explore also how we can use Touch Designer. What actually are the potentials? And that's for all teams, right? It's not only for you. See what is the opportunities there, because it may open a different trajectory, which we don't know yet. I have downloaded the software. I know nothing about it. just to be clear. So we are together on that. But that's actually quite exciting. That's why I downloaded. I thought it's quite cool, especially if you pair it with Arduino and things. You can do some stuff. But still, we need to explore what it is and what it can do. And from what I've seen, there's a lot of tutorials online to actually get starting. So one member of a team should be looking at it. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else you want to discuss? Here we are. Touch Designer Water. So I guess this one is generating kind of the water structure and water movement.
I don't know.
To a certain degree. Well, this needs a lot of digging, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as our next part, so we could start thinking the potentials of data mining from water, right? And really how this could be related to Touch Designer.
Yeah. And also any kind of data mining from different properties that the water may have or liquids may have. It's not only water necessarily, but generally how does it work in terms of data interaction with Touch Designer, what we could do there, and visualization techniques. It's a little bit of a bigger topic around the software. But I think your research also needs to focus a bit on seawater and how it can become a tool or an option to develop a different approach to it.
May I ask, like for the project, we have to address to the real world, or we can make like some virtual creation from the such as Touch Designer to simulate the evaporation process to create virtual space, that kind of stuff?
Well, I don't know the answer, and it's all based on what you can do what we could do, what is best, and whether we come back to the studios and we start doing some more physical stuff. You can do physical stuff from where you are at the moment. But there's a lot of unknowns, but it's too early to define what is the product. Don't get too much on it. I think you should get excited about the topic. If you manage to find a better way, a better use of seawater, you made an amazing thing, amazing invention. You know what I mean? This is what you need to be thinking at. You may do a revolution by resolving this fundamental problem. What do you do with seawater? And is some of those questions and topics, they actually don't have an answer, because maybe there's no answer on something. But if you manage to do it, that's what the excitement should be driven from. Sometimes I get this kind of excitement because you try to do the impossible, and actually if you manage to do it, could be life-changing. Question is whether you can actually do it, but you know what? Let's try.
Yeah. Okay.
What is this little invader?
Sorry?
Yuki, what is that? There's a little boy there. Your little brother. My God, very little. Okay, 2 years old. How old are you, Yuki? Quite a big. Okay, I see. Okay.
Okay, so stop sharing.
So you got the point, right?
Yeah.
I think it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I said, if you make it, it can be a massive thing. I mean, this is for everybody, right? Without this kind of researches happen like this. Like sometimes you get so obsessed about it, you can't sleep at night because you think it's the most important thing you ever done in your life. This is actually a good motivation, let's call it. But try to think of the impossible. Sometimes it's helpful. Try to get excited.
Yeah, we are.
And don't forget, it's probably the last time you do that in your life. Like being a student, developing something nobody else has done, probably. Then you're gonna work in a boring office, doing boring buildings, get paid boring money to do it. So just go for it. It's the last time. That's how you should approach it.
Thank you for the pep talk.
No, but that's how it is.
Yeah,
That's how I felt back then, and it was actually completely true. I couldn't really get it back then. I was like, okay, then we need to work somewhere and la la la. But actually, wait a minute. There are more important things. So go full on, and don't ask, how do I do that? Why am I doing that? Just go. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No worries. Okay, next one.
Yeah. Okay, it's our turn to introduce something about air.
Yeah.
Okay. Our members are Dingyu, Gaojia, Yuxiao, and me. And our current research is divided into 4 parts. First is the concept of air, and the second is the property and the applications of air in different disciplines. And third is the devices and technologies related to the air. And the last is some scenarios that we imagine for the propulsion of life support. And we can skip the first part, I think, the cultural stuff. And
Yeah, you can go generally quite quickly. It's all about getting the point, not the details for now.
Michelle, you can start the discipline research.
Okay, so first we research something about as some different disciplines. First is physics, and we research some basic properties about